back to Every Genesis Song Ranked. Today we're counting down from 49 to 40, and we have hit a threshold where I'm going to stop giving mixed reviews and hedging praise with carefully articulated critiques. This is really the tipping point into uniformly excellent stuff, some of my favorite music ever. And I'm looking forward to talking about it. I hope the breathless enthusiasm doesn't grow too repetitive. As always, I'm Hans from Electric Brain, Electric Shadow. We are a contemporary art rock project that strives to make moody, complex, emotionally nuanced music. And frankly, the more it sounds like the songs we're talking about today, the happier I am with it. You can find a couple of album playlists right here on my YouTube channel, or look us up on Bandcamp or your preferred streaming platform. Number 49 is Lilywhite Lilith. One of the distinctive sonic features of Lamb is a really thick, fuzzy bass sound, which gives a harder edge to what's already a harder-edged set of songs than the last album. Now, that sound comes up in a number of places on this song, but it really does a lot, especially to define that closing section. This song rocks in a more conventional way than a lot of the rest of their catalog, but it also, at the same time, still summons up a really ominous atmosphere. The third side of the Lamb in general, I think, is still maybe even a little underrated after all these years, and this is a really key part of an excellent sequence. Number 48 is Silver Rainbow. This is the most determinedly weird song on the self-titled album. I really admire the commitment that Phil shows as a singer to what seems to be a nonsensical lyric about sexual discovery being interrupted by a bear attack. I love the contrast between the thunking rhythm and the cosmic keyboard sounds. Back in the Keep It Dark review, I talked about how great they were at juxtaposing textures during this era. This is another excellent example of that. Now, you could argue that maybe another section, like a Great Middle Eight, would have moved it even further up this list, but what's here is still pure joy. Number 47 is Entangled. Lovely song, wonderful tapestry of guitar, some excellent mellotron use in the spooky coda. I would even say some of the most atmospheric use of that particular instrument that Banks ever pulled off. This is simpler in its construction than some of the other songs from Trick of the Tail, but no less effective for that simplicity. Might I suggest, though, that the closing touch of humor perhaps momentarily pulls us out of the dream? Number 46 is Unquiet Slumbers for the Sleepers, which is a relatively brief mood piece that essentially functions as a prelude to In That Quiet Earth. They're tracked separately, so I'm listing them separately, but I have put them next to each other in the ranking. A theremin-esque synth sits atop a lush bed of classical guitar. Neither of those instrumental voices really sounds like anything else in the catalog, and this manages to carve out a unique place for itself, even while not really taking up much space. So like I mentioned it would be, number 4 is In That Quiet Earth. This is an instrumental piece that might live in the shadow of more beloved work like Los Endos or the second half of Cinema Show, and I certainly can't make an argument that it's better than those songs. But, the crashing guitar chords and that kind of thick stomp give it a pretty distinct identity, and it really packs a lot into 4 minutes. Number 44, we're going to jump a fair distance ahead in time here. I've put Driving the Last Spike. The lyric to this is one of the most successful pieces of writing that Phil did within the context of Genesis. Especially outside of the realm of the personal. And the arrangement ebbs and flows with a subtle but really effective sense of dynamics. If the longer songs on We Can't Dance tend to be the best, it's not because long songs are automatically better. It's because, for whatever reason, the longest pieces on that album tended to demonstrate a sense of creativity and focus that the shorter songs didn't. Number 43, I have One for the Vine. Now, there's a huge amount that you could say in praise of this song, and I don't know that I have time or space to go through all of it. Anybody who's watching this video will, I'm sure, be familiar with and fond of it. The one thing that I do want to single out for praise, though, that I think is an especially distinct achievement of this piece is the lyric and the vocal line and their relationship to each other. It's rare to see a vocal melody this lovely while being this complex, right? And, fitting Banks's words to an effective vocal line that Phil could convincingly deliver. People have pointed to that as being a struggle of this period, right? And it's rare that something so complex was made to be so pretty, delivered so effectively. I also appreciate how the lyric maintains a very tight rhyme scheme without ever really allowing the rhyme to feel like it's dictating the words. Number 42 is the Brazilian. I'm going to make a bold prediction here. 30 years from now, when no form of commercial FM radio still exists, and the chart performance of songs from the 80s is entirely a matter of trivia, this song will be broadly considered by anyone who still listens to Genesis as the best song on Invisible Touch. Number 41 is The Waiting Room. And this is a real oddity, of course, because Genesis were always the most musical and the most composed of the great prog groups, by which I mean they didn't really use any free improvisation and they didn't use a whole lot of musique concrète. You can't imagine them doing anything like the extended jams on Starless and Bible Black, or some of the soundscaping on ELP's Toccata and Fugue. This is the great exception, right? One of the great outliers in their catalog, several minutes of improvised noise. And it's all the more chilling and effective for appearing in a small dose. It's telling, I suppose, that they only do it really for a couple minutes before a more conventional song fades in. Peter Hamill, for instance, basically took the same idea and stretched it out to 10 minutes, but the departure is still appreciated, and it's a great example of the kind of daring and commitment that make The Lamb such a wonderful album. Number 40, I have Los Endos. As an instrumental piece, this has some top-notch playing, it has some fantastic arrangements. It doesn't necessarily have the same emotional weight as earlier instrumentals like Hairless Heart or After the Ordeal, but then the live version on Seconds Out slays so goddamn hard that the lack of emotional weight in the composition becomes completely irrelevant. The studio version is great. The live version is some of the most wonderful ensemble playing that they ever did. All right, that felt like a relatively brisk video compared to some of the other ones in this series. It's easier sometimes to praise things than it is to try to mount an extended explanation of why you don't like them. I'll be back in a week or two to start dipping into the 30s. Thanks for everybody who's stuck with us this far, and hope you have a good evening.